You're watching KOIN TV, Channel 6.
Total wall-to-wall clearance at Waterbed Emporium. We're extending our New Year's sale 4 more big days. Our absolute lowest prices of the year with store-wide savings. Plus, pay no interest and make no payments till July. Hurry, 4 days only, ends Monday, 9 p.m. at Waterbed Emporium.
First came the innerspring mattress, later the waterbed. Now, the best of both, the Stratabed. Perfect in any bed.
Good afternoon. You are joining a live report, a special report from News Center 6. A hostage siege at the KOIN Tower is ending at this moment. An armed gunman came into the KOIN building this afternoon, shooting 2 people, wounding both of them. He then took 4 people hostage. You are looking at a live picture from the KOIN Center lobby. This is a picture across the lobby into the Charles Schwab brokerage office, where for the last couple of hours, a heavily armed gunman has been holding 4 people hostage. It has been a chilling and frightening afternoon for everyone in this building. We have not been on the air this afternoon for the safety and protection of our own employees and for everyone else in the KOIN Center Tower. But now that everyone is safe, we are able to bring the story to you, and for the next hour or more, we will bring you the detailed story from inside the siege of the KOIN Center Tower. This is a 32-story building, and a number of people are still trapped in their offices above us. We are in the basement of this building. There is a trail of blood that leads to a back door to the studio just behind me. We can see the blood that comes to the doorway where 2 people were shot outside of an elevator this afternoon. Over the past couple of hours, we have had a bird's eye view across the lobby as one by one 4 hostages have been released. We will be bringing you pictures of all of this as we continue throughout the afternoon. We have a number of people who have been outside of the building watching the events unfold from outside of our studios. Mike Donahue is up on the street. We couldn't get people in, we couldn't get people out during this ordeal, but we have been able to watch and follow it, and we are going to share all of it with you. Let's go to Mike Donahue now and find out what it's like up on the street and how much relief there is there that this is now over. Mike?
Mark, you're now seeing ambulances and police cars, and we're now focusing on the entrance to the KOIN Center Cinema, where the hostage, no, not the hostage, the gunman with shirt bare, shirt off, bare-chested, is now in the window there, under arrest by police. As you reported, Mark, all of the hostages had been brought out safely. We've seen them leave the back of the building. The view right now is from the Civic Auditorium into the window at 3rd and Clay of the entrance to the KOIN Center Cinema. He is being searched at this moment by Portland police, who, along with the FBI, have endured, along with all the people in the building, this 4.5-hour siege. We're over here near the Civic Auditorium. That's the view we're giving you as they're bringing the gunman out now. About 2 o'clock this afternoon, this man fired 2 bursts from a semi-automatic rifle as he went into an underground parking lot underneath the KOIN Center. 2 men were wounded. They are in the hospital in fair condition right now. You see him there being placed in a Portland police car. He then took an elevator up to the lobby, where he fired another burst from his rifle and took several people hostage, herding them into the Charles Schwab brokerage firm. Some of those people escaped out a back door, but he then set in for this long siege with 3 women and 1 man. He released the man a short time later, a broker named Ken Aiken. He was unharmed, and then about an hour ago, 1 woman was released, and then the final 2 hostages. And there you see the gunman being taken away, taken uptown to police headquarters. I'm here with Mark Hendricks, who was inside the building when this all started. Mark, tell us what happened.
This came to the attention of most of us in the KOIN Center as a fire alarm. What happened was at about 10 minutes after 2 this afternoon, the alarms went off. None of us knew what the situation was out in the lobby at that time. We'd heard nothing of gunfire. And we all went out through the main fire entrance there. And
let's break away just a minute, Mark, and see if we can get C.W. Jensen, the police spokesman, is now talking to reporter.
Let out the woman, let out the 2 other women, and then came out himself. at the request of the negotiators, and he's been taken into custody. Now, I apologize, but I don't have a lot of information on this guy, just that he's an adult male. The identity we haven't confirmed yet. He identified himself as being from Northeast Portland. And supposedly the reason this happened was he used to work for a delivery company. He made deliveries to this building. He made deliveries to the 13th floor or 14th floor to some business there, and apparently had a problem with some of the female employees that worked at whatever business this was when he made his deliveries. Apparently he was fired from whatever company this was, but was angry, continued to be angry at these women, and then decided that he was going to go there and shoot them. Obviously, he never made it that far, and the events happened, as you know now. But thank goodness the individual's in custody. Absolutely a fantastic job by everybody involved. The negotiators did an absolutely incredible job, and as usually I'm lucky to stand up here and say we got another one resolved.
What condition are the hostages in?
Apparently they're in good condition. They're all down at detectives, but they all walked out on their own power. Obviously, you can bet they're pretty scared, but pretty happy right now.
There were some people who walked out after the man without the shirt on. Were they also hostages? Was it just the four?
Right, it was just the four. So when you saw the guy come out without the shirt on, that was our suspect. And obviously, we told him to do that, told him to remove his shirt. That helps in identification, obviously, and to know that there's no weapons. So he came out, that was it. The four hostages and that individual.
Do you have the identification of this man?
Did he ever fire at police?
When we initially were here, before the CERT team got here, in the first few minutes that we were here, allegedly he fired at officers who were inside the building. I don't know how many, but no officers were hurt.
So there was no beef whatsoever with Charles Schwab?
Apparently, and obviously I'm getting this as quick as I could and as fast as I could, but apparently the beef was with people in the upper floors, women that this guy identified as being disrespectful or rude to him as he made his deliveries, and these deliveries could have been months ago for all I know. They weren't any time recently.
Do you know the name of that company?
I don't know that now, but I'll be able to get that later.
What was the turning point in the negotiations?
I believe he made phone calls to San Francisco, but I'm not sure who he made the phone calls to.
John, this is Mike again with Mark Hendricks here. You've just been listening to C.W. Jensen, who's been briefing us. If you missed any of that, he was explaining that this gunman had a beef against some women, presumably people who were tenants of that building, who he felt were disrespectful to him on previous deliveries. So he was coming here tonight dressed like a combat soldier to take revenge.
Which would explain some of the questions that we had about this. He apparently entered through the parking garage of the KOIN building. That's where the gunshots were fired. We're in the parking garage area. Knew how to get to the elevators there and how to get up to the main lobby of the KOIN building. And we're going to be showing you some pictures shortly of what happened initially in this. I was saying before we went to CW just a moment ago, now we're going to see the hostage coming out. But at the time this all happened, a little bit after 2 o'clock, most people in the building who heard the alarm, and many did, evacuated the building. Now we're seeing somebody leaving who is visibly upset.
Assumingly at some of the women who might have been involved, the hostages. Ann Schatz has just joined us, too. She had a vantage point from across the street, Ann.
Yeah, we were up across the street, and this is the video that Gary Beck was shooting of a woman that came out after the gunman came out and had given himself up, which was odd. The SWAT team moved in just to check the place out, it seemed like, and sure enough, a woman looked like she came out from underneath a desk, was visibly shaken, was very, very frightened, had put her arms around a policeman and he around her to escort her and help her out of the building. And she was extremely upset. And what was so odd, though, as I mentioned, was she came out after the gunman had come out and given himself up. That's what was so strange.
Suggesting that perhaps she had been hiding in there.
Well, yeah, you'd hate to say that was for sure, obviously, because we're in an office building watching this whole thing from a small vantage point. But it did indeed look like she had crawled out from underneath something, perhaps a desk.
Our information earlier from a wife of Mr. Aiken, who was originally taken hostage, was that there were 3 women and him inside the brokerage firm that the gunman had identified and had identified as his hostages. So perhaps this woman was another one inside.
Maybe so. The women that we saw leave right before the gunman gave himself up, left quickly and in succession and very calmly. And we figured, we were trying to count to ourselves, okay, now how many does that make? We thought that that was it, especially then after we saw him finally give himself up. And he seemed very calm about it too, taking his shirt off and then coming outside. And then to see her come out was a little bit shocking for us.
We're learning now, of course, that this man knows this building. He had made deliveries here. He perhaps even knew the two men that he shot, because one of them made a reference or a challenge to him, who's going to pay this parking ticket, and he said, oh, Jay will take care of it, a building engineer, we understand.
Yeah,
Mike, this is Mark Hubbard back in the
couple
studio.
of moments of what happened. Mark Hubbard, did you have a question for us?
Well, I was going to speculate. We were talking earlier about Mr. Aiken and his comments. It's very possible that he only told his wife that 4 people were being held hostage because he didn't want to endanger anybody else who may have been in that office. From those of us who have been inside watching the ordeal unfold inside the building, there was a lot of commotion in the lobby area. The gunman walked past a number of people. There were people who were in Charles Schwab who were sneaking out of back exits. There were other people who were being told to move to certain places by the gunman. Come this way, go this way, don't move, stop, start. So there's definitely the possibility that there were people who just ducked and got under a desk or hid in a corner. And we have seen, Ann, as she mentioned, several people come out of that office building after the 4 hostages were all released and after the gunman was taken into custody. So exactly how many people were trapped in that office is unclear.
Well, we talked to some of the people who were in the lobby as that gentleman walked into that area, and we have some tape that we shot earlier this afternoon, some interviews with some KOIN employees who happened to come directly in front of this individual. Now, Mariah Batiste, who is the personnel manager at KOIN TV, was one of the first people on the scene, and she joins us right now. You walked out into the lobby, Mariah, and this individual confronted you, is that right?
Yes, that's true.
Tell me what happened.
Well, I walked out. I was looking for the security guard of the KOIN building because the alarms were going off, and he confronted me. He had an automatic weapon and pointed it at me and told me to stop moving. He was talking about wanting to go upstairs and just kept pointing the gun at everyone and saying to stop moving. So he had the woman who was the hostage at the time with him.
Okay, he had his arm around a woman then?
Yes.
And he was pointing a rifle at her or at you?
At me.
Okay.
And he was telling me to stop moving. I think I might have frightened him when I ran into the lobby.
Okay, what did he then do?
Basically, I think what happened is he tried to shoot the gun, and in my perception of it is that the gun jammed. He threw it on the ground, the gun broke apart, and then he, as all of us sort of turned to maybe try and run, he then grabbed a pistol, and he pointed the pistol at me. He told us to stop moving, and then he fired 4 shots in the air. Then he had us all move into the Charles Schwab building, or that office.
Okay, so he's firing this series of shots out of frustration then, that he can't get upstairs where he wants to go, and orders you into the Charles Schwab office. Is that a number of people then in that office?
There were a lot of people in the office, and the Charles Schwab people basically gathered around us in a hugging motion and moved us all very quickly around the corner to push us into a back exit so we could get out.
Thank you, Mariah. Let's take a look now at the shipping entrance, the parking entrance. You'll see some of the bullet holes from the burst of semi-automatic rifle fire. This is a video I don't think anyone's seen yet. Of course, it's because our people were locked inside the building. We probably should explain why we were unable to go on the air for those 4.5 hours. It was out of concern for the safety of our people inside the building. There was concern from the police's point of view that this man might have wanted to go on television, since the KOIN Tower obviously houses a KOIN television station. There was concern, too, that he might try to take some of our people hostage. And our policy just is, whenever we're going to make an error, it's going to be on behalf of the safety of our employees.
Well, clearly, he went into a television station. Oh, here's one of the employees that we were talking about. We see that tape? That was one of the employees who confronted the man.
What apparently had happened is a man was downstairs in the lobby, downstairs in the parking garage, he got shot in the leg. Security officials from the building said that he went over and pulled the fire alarm to warn everybody else that something was impending. So the guy came up, got into the lobby, actually had a woman with him that was behind him, but he had drugged her in. He looked around and looked down at his gun as if something was wrong with his gun. So he then took his gun off his shoulder, threw it down into the ground, and pulled out, I didn't see the gun, but eventually pulled out another gun, and that's what he shot with. It was almost as if he was going to, like, spray all the people, just come in and spray them with his automatic weapon.
And that's in the lobby of the KOIN building?
Right, in the lobby.
Before he gets into the Schwab building?
Right, before he gets into the Schwab building. We had people out there who worked for KOIN, who I was going to try to get, and that's when Peter Maroney, news director, pulled me back in and said, get down, that was gunfire.
We're again looking at the bullet holes and the trail of blood that leads to an elevator inside our building. We can get a shot now. You're looking there at the entrance to the KOIN Cinema, where a number of people who have been spending this last 4.5 hours inside this high-rise structure are exiting. They're going home to their families and their loved ones. You might explain the siren or the alarm that was ringing while that woman was talking to us a few moments ago. Mark, you heard that and exited the building.
That's the fire alarm system, and that's what we thought was happening at the time, was a fire in the building, or at least that's what we were told. Now, somebody in the newsroom called up to the front desk and asked the receptionist if there was indeed a fire, and all he heard was were the words, "Oh my God," and the phone slammed down. And he turned to the rest of us in the newsroom and said, something is happening, let's all get out of here. And so we took an entrance that put us out on the 3rd Street side of the building, in fact, just right down here. And from that point, we all just sort of stood around and wondered what was happening. We walked down to the Columbia Street side, saw a police car with its driver's side door open and an officer poised like this over the top of it, and thought, well, this is something obviously much worse than a fire. And so we were all evacuated far away from the building, and that's where we've been for the last 4.5 hours.
Of course, when that alarm rings, all of the doors, based on the security measures in KOIN Center, open. And that, again, was the concern of our bosses, that our employees might be harmed, because the doors are now open. This gunman has access to the whole building. He could have walked down into our KOIN Center television stations and taken some of our people hostage. Again, I'm trying to explain, it was very frustrating for us not to be on the air and broadcasting what was happening at the KOIN Center, our place of work, to you. But again, it was because of a request from the authorities that we not broadcast, and about a concern for the safety of our employees.
Mike, we want to let the people at home know that there are 2 victims from this hostage ordeal this afternoon, the 2 men that were both shot at the very beginning of this ordeal. The good news is that both are now in fair condition. One was originally in serious condition when he arrived at the hospital. However, they have been able to help both of those victims. Howard Barley of Milwaukee was shot several times in the leg. He is 45 years old and was in serious condition initially, at least 3 bullets to the leg. Bone was shattered, and that was a very serious problem. He has now been upgraded to fair condition. Also, Alan Kokemo of Beaverton, he was shot in the back and the elbow. It appears that it was sort of shrapnel that went through him, and he was originally in fairly good condition and is now still in fair condition. He is 24 years old. Both of these men confronted the gunman in the delivery area of the KOIN Center Tower before he got on the elevator and then came up to the lobby area. The first, Howard Barley, apparently the gunman wanted him to get on the elevator with him, but Barley said he was not going to do that and ran away, and then he was shot 3 times. Ken Boddy joins me now here in the studio. You have been up in our lobby of our station the last several hours, watching across the General Towers lobby into the Charles Schwab building. Tell us what you've been watching.
Well, I've been watching for, as you say, about the past few hours, and first thing I noticed is at 5:22, 3 CERT members moved into position, and then a couple of minutes later, 2 more CERT people moved into position. What you're seeing now is about where I was during the entire time that I was up in the lobby area. This is a live shot right now, and you can see that the lobby is still secured. You have CERT team members and police officers who are going through, looking for evidence, taking pictures, that type thing. That lobby area will be secured for a while. Now, let me go through the chronology again of what I saw. At about 5:22, the CERT team moved into position, into shooting position at that area where you just saw that live shot. They were camouflaged and, of course, armed. Now, at about 6:15, a woman hostage was released. We saw her come out from that doorway area. And then maybe 20 seconds later, there was another woman who came out, and she was released. Now, original reports said that there were, at that time, about 4 hostages who still remained. And we saw that there was a man who was released. There were the 2 women who were released. And then several minutes later, there was a 3rd woman who came out. At that time, about 6:28, the suspect came out, and he had his hands up, and we thought that might have been the end of it. Apparently, there were some people who were in that office who were hiding, who the shooter was not aware of, and they came out afterwards. So, very tense situation for those people. About 6:30, the CERT team went in to secure the area. 6:32, those other hostages that I told you about, who the shooter apparently was not aware of, they came out. About 6:33, all the hostages had been released, and by 6:35, it was over.
You know, we were speculating down here, Ken. We thought it was very strange that he had 4 hostages, 3 women and a man, and he let the man go first. Traditionally, when you see hostage situations, you usually think they let the women and the children go first. It seemed very awkward that he let the man go first. Now that we know that he came here in part because he was disgruntled and angry about certain women in this building, that he has some aggression that he was trying to deal with towards women, that's why he possibly held the women and let the man go. What you're looking at now, one by one, the police would come in with a Jeep vehicle, and as each hostage was released, they'd pull the vehicle up to the side of the building over by the cinema entrance. The person would come out of the Charles Schwab building. We would see them very briefly dart in front of the camera that we had up in our lobby, and then they would come out this door by the cinema entrance and get into the Jeep, and then they were, I assume, driven around to the Marriott, which was the command post, and they were all debriefed so that the police could get a better idea of who they were dealing with. As you watched the police in the lobby, I know I looked many times at that picture, and you could see them with the arms out and the guns drawn.
Yes.
Were they ready at any moment to start shooting? I mean,
definitely.
Was it always a situation that was going to erupt, possibly?
No, that's part of their mission. As a matter of fact, you can see them right now, and these were pictures that were taken earlier, of course, while this was going on. Okay, you can see, that's what I saw. Saw one of those women leave. Apparently, I saw the edit there. This is the next woman who comes out.
And they're signaling her as to what she should do and where she should go.
Okay, now this shot is facing east right now, and they're having her come out and take a left from their standpoint and get out of the building from the back side of the building, on the opposite side of the Columbia Street side, which is the main entrance, which was the shot you just saw. Now, this is by the movie theaters, what you're looking at now. This is by the movie theaters, the KOIN cinemas, which are on the opposite side of the building. Apparently, that was the pathway they took out. You have to go through some, near some elevators to get out that way. But apparently, they felt it was safer to take the women out that way and the other hostages out that way, rather than bring them directly out the front entrance on Columbia Street.
Thank you very much, Ken. We can assume that because this person was making regular deliveries to the KOIN Towers, that's why he had access to the building. That's why he was able to get into the delivery area of the KOIN basement. It all started around 2:15 this afternoon around the loading dock. Mark Sanchez has the story of just what happened.
It all began shortly after 2 o'clock. The gunman approached the KOIN Tower armed with bad intent and several firearms. The first shots rang out in the parking garage out of public view.
By any description, this is a crime scene. I'm underground now in the parking garage of the KOIN building, where below me, trail of blood, and there are at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 spent bullets.
Altogether, more than a dozen rounds went off, and you can follow the trail of blood headed this time toward an elevator.
It's clear from the patterns of blood and bullets that, frankly, the chase and the firefight took place in this hallway as well. A few steps away, here's KOIN TV.
2 men were hit, one in the